world, everybody pays anyways, right? Everybody in every country pays taxes, for example, she said. Um, wherever you live, you have to pay taxes, which is very annoying, but we all have to pay taxes. And she said, in exchange for that, like you get repaid for that. But not only do you get repaid for paying taxes, everybody in the community, everybody in the country gets repaid with healthcare, gets repaired with good roads, gets repaired with education, they get repaid with security. Like all of those taxes in theory, right, go towards like all these great things that are going to benefit the entire community. Maybe in Europe. I don't know. In Guatemala, it's not like that. But yes, in some countries, in Germany for sure. So basically, um, she said like there's this big benefit to giving a little bit of of what you own, to sharing it, and in exchange, the entire community gets benefited. So Toch is kind of Mayan taxes, she said. That's the way she explained it, and I found it so funny. She's like, Toch is like the Mayan tax, but we're not paying any government. We're not paying any institution. We're not paying any person. We're doing our payment that we're supposed to do towards the earth for the life that we have. And why, according to the Mayans, is that important? Like you might ask yourself, why, like, what does the earth care if I sit there and I light a candle? Or why does the earth care if we do like a Mayan fire ceremony and we throw some incense and candles and cacao into the fire? Like what does the earth, like that doesn't help the earth, right? Well, the reality is for the earth, but it is for us. So here's what I'm going to explain. So basically, the reason the Mayans believe that it's essential for the earth that we do this every 20 days is because through that practice, no, we're not like doing anything like specifically that's going to change the earth by doing that practice. What we're doing through that practice is we're doing a practice that's going to change us and that is going to make us better human beings so that we can act better in front of the earth, in the face of the earth, in harmony with the earth. So in the Maya tradition, and for example, one of the interesting things about Mehelem Shukulem, which is the concept of paying, Adalberto is an amazing researcher. He spent like years with several scholars and other Mayan spiritual leaders trying to decipher and really deeply study the ancient Mayan codices that are still available, the ancient like stone tablets, everything. And the way that Mehelem and Shukulem have been translating in modern days is reverence and respect and kneeling. But what he said is in the ancient times, like this concept, they believe that probably since the invasion, like people kind of changed the concept because he said you cannot find in one single ancient codex, you cannot find in one single stone tablet the part about kneeling. So in the modern times, like people are putting their knees on the ground often during these practices. And if you've been on your knees, that hurts, right? And so he said in the ancient, like, um, codices and everything, we see that people would do something different, not put it themselves with the knees on the ground, but sit on the ground with their legs crossed, kind of like in almost like in a meditation kind of position. And so he says that him and several other researchers believe that this concept was almost like a little bit like Catholicized, like you have to suffer, you have to feel pain in order to say thank you. But he says like in the ancient times, then there's no mention of that, like hurting your knees or suffering to demonstrate to the earth that you love her. Like you don't have to suffer, which as soon as he said it, I was like, oh my goodness, that makes so much sense. I always wondered, I was like, that seems so un-Mayan, really, this like kneel and have your knees hurt thing. So I was almost glad, that they discovered that because that's like one new part that made it into the concept of Mehelem Shukulem. But Mehelem Shukulem is really not suffering, is reverence, is gratitude. And so in the Maya tradition, we do all of these different things like in the ceremonies. Yeah. I'm going to explain you how they work. It's really interesting and profound. So, mm. My head is killing me. Um, so basically, the when you do, okay, so when you do a Mayan fire ceremony, which is known as Kotzich or as Toch, by the way, which now you'll see it makes sense that it's also known as Toch. Um, when you do a Mayan fire ceremony, there's specific places where you do that, right? So you do that in what is like, and now in Spanish they call them Mayan altars, and their ancient name was not that, but just so you understand me and for simplicity, I'm just gonna call them Mayan altars for now. Um, so there's Mayan altars all over Mesoamerica, and the altars are not like a physical building. They're not a place that the Mayans built or something like this. They're just simply places in nature that the Mayans believe are very energetically charged places. And oh my God, they are very energetically charged places because the same altars have been used for thousands and thousands and thousands of years by spiritual leaders from these regions. I was reading a study that the Guatemalan government did where they declared the government, which we didn't need that, but anyways, the government declared 45,000 different sites, ancient sacred places for the Mayans in Guatemala. But a lot of spiritual leaders said that's kind of great that the government's acknowledging that, but there's way more than 45,000 just in Guatemala alone, you know? And that's without even counting that like a huge part of Mexico is also Mayan region. Belize is also Mayan region, parts of Honduras and El Salvador. So I don't even know how many Mayan altars there must be, but I know there's a lot of them. And so they have the tendency to be in really inconvenient places, but I think that's on purpose. So they're always on top of a mountain, on top of a hill, down into a cave. Like go into that ravine and walk for an hour, and then you're gonna find it. And so basically, um, they're often like near rivers, on top of mountains. In every volcano, there's at least a few. Um, um, well, we talked about in caves. In Mexico, for example, they have them in cenotes, as well. And there's different kinds of altars that have different purposes. That's the other day, Alberto was telling me like that he was talking to an once, and he was sharing how they were doing the ceremony for a very specific purpose and it was not working, which is weird. And then they discovered that probably they were just doing it in the wrong altar because this altar has a very specific purpose to only work on certain things and whatnot. So they have like their own meaning. Like every single one has its own like thing. The altars themselves are carried by like specific energies and stuff like that and whatnot. So some of them are connected to the cosmos, to the upper world. Some of them are connected to the underworld, to Xibalbá. For instance, I already mentioned this the other day, which is the ones in cenotes, the ones in caves are often more connected to the energy of Xibalbá. And oh, I'll say those are some of the most beautiful ones, like when we went there with my dad. So here's what it looks like if you want to do a Mayan ceremony. It's like a whole process. And the Kikchi people do it amazing because they go the extra mile, but I'll share that in a second. So basically, they, you have to go. And well, now in modern day times, like you have to go to the market. And in the markets here, you can always find a little store where they sell like materials for the ceremonies, or they sell candles, they sell pom, raspom, they sell incense, like different kinds of incense and resins from trees, mainly pine tree, but other trees as well. They sell cacao, they sell like everything, everything that all these like herbal plants, they sell everything that you need in order to make your ceremony. And you go there, and if you make a really small ceremony, it's gonna be like, I don't know, maybe 300 quetzales, 400 quetzales for the materials for like a small ceremony, between 2 and 400, which is, I don't know how much that is in dollars. I'm really bad at converting it, but it's a lot of money for Guatemala, okay? So, and then the big ones, like the bigger ones, people spend like 1,000 Q, 2,000 quetzales for the really big ones. That's like a few $100s, you know what I mean? In Guatemala, the minimum wage is like $400 per month, just for context. So people like it's a sacrifice, you know? People like for people here, this is so important. Like this practice is so important. They're willing to spend the money that they don't have. Like I remember, you know, I told you with my dad is like we didn't grow up wealthy at all. So we had like a lot of financial problems, but we would always do ceremonies, and he would still always find the way to get the money to get the materials to the ceremony, you know, because it's like a big part of like this the sacrifice that you have to make. And you'll see soon why sacrifice is like an important part of it. Not pain, but like a little bit of sacrifice, you know. Then with my dad, we'd be like, okay, he was like, we're gonna go to, I don't know where, like we're gonna travel, often, like we're gonna go to Tecpan, or we're gonna go to the volcano, we're gonna hike a literal volcano, or we're gonna do something to go to one of the really beautiful altars. And then we would travel. And then I'll tell you the story of one time when we went to Ishimche. We went there. It was like such a long journey. We had to get up like at 4 a.m. and like we packed the car with all of the materials. You go into the places and well, Ishimche is actually kind of easy access, but we've gone to so many places where you have to do a 1 hour hike into a mountain, or you have to get into the mud and climb into a cave, like a really deep cave, or I don't know, like you have to do so much. And like the point is you always get so dirty. I don't know what it is, but like every time you go to do a ceremony, you always get super dirty and dusty and like muddy and all kinds of things happen. Always. It's like a journey, like a little adventure. And then you finally get there. And then you sit there and you start unwrapping the materials. And many of the materials are wrapped up so well. They're like tied up, and you have to untangle them, which is part of the act of the ceremonies. Like it has a meaning that you have to untangle them. And it's so hard to untangle them. It's so hard. They're always so tangled up. And so you have to spend a long time just like untangling all the candles, untangling like all of the knots that they did for the package of the incense and everything. And you have to start preparing all of the materials. Then you have the arquij, because only an arquij can do this, by the way. The arquij sets them up. It starts, and it's not like light a fire and go about your day and forget about it. It's not 20 minutes, and it's hours, It's like very short ones are like 1-2 hours. Those are like if you have very little materials and they're very small, like between 1-2 hours for a really small one, a really quick one. The normal ones are more like 3-4 hours. I've been in some that are like 5-6-7 hours. And I know everybody like who has been at least in one that was like the whole day, from morning to night or something crazy like that. Or, I know people who told me they even had like the whole night, like it passed to the other day already at that point. And so something about it is beautiful, is profound, but it's also boring sometimes, because sometimes you're just standing there for 4 hours and you're like, I want to go home. Like, I'm tired at this point. Like, I already said thank you enough times, I feel like, but now you keep going, Sometimes you get a little distracted because you're like, wow, okay, we're only in Ahmak right now, and it's been 2 hours already. So basically, they do is they do an invocation. They open with an invocation, and the invocation is often starts with like thinking the four corners of the earth. So everybody thinks the four corners of the earth. They look to the east, then they look to the west, and they look to the north, and they look to the south. They think the four elements. So, it's long, and it's very long. And so then after you've done like for like 20 minutes or something thinking the four corners of the earth or so, then you start going into like one of the main invocations, which is also really long. And they invoke and they say thank you to everything. It's like Sakol, Bitol, Lalom, Kaholom, Tepeo, Gukumats. And they go super long, right? And they thank everything. And every word I just said has a really profound concept and an extremely profound meaning. And they spend a long time thanking each thing. So like to the sun, to the moon, to outer space, thank you, you know, to the heart of the sky, to the heart of the earth, thank you, to the animals, to the plants, to the trees, to the, you know, everything, like to the bees, to this, to that, thank you. And then they even go and they thank every altar one by one personally. So you're going to hear them calling the name of every altar they know one by one, you know. So they go, thank you, te invocamos, te llamamos Kwan Mundo, you know, Tikal, Ishimche, Juanito Noh. Like they start calling every single altar one by one. And then sometimes the Maquis start also thanking all of their ancestors, and they start thanking all of the teachers who came before. So they go one by one, name by name, like, you know, Don Francisco Sorveltat, you know, like all of the teachers, all of the Mayan spiritual leaders, they go and one by one say thank you to every single thing in existence, to every, literally, I'm not joking, like every single aspect of existence. They didn't forget one single tiny aspect of it. And then they go into the Cholquij and they do the count of the 20 energies, and they invoke all 260 energies. From bats to tzi, but not only from bats to tzi, from 1 bats to 2 bats to 3 bats to 4 bats to 5 bats to 6 bats to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 bats. And the same thing with all of the energies. And so eventually, and that takes hours to say thank you, because they speak directly to every single energy, and personally spend like a good amount of time saying thank you to every single energy of the Cholquij for all of the lessons that it brings us, for everything that it teaches us. Obviously, a big emphasis on the energy of that day, usually, whatever the day is. And then after they're done saying thank you, they start closing it by saying thank you again to every single thing again. So they repeat the whole thing. Is like, okay, now we said thank you, now we say goodbye. And then they go through the entire process all over again by saying thank you again. So like, okay, now thank you again, heart of the sky, we say goodbye. Like, thank you again, heart of the earth, and now we say goodbye, you know? So you just greet them and then you say goodbye. Okay. And you again might be like, well, how is that doing any favors to the earth? As I mentioned, the reason the Mayans believe that it's essential for human beings to have this practice in their life, is because your parents always take you to those things when you're a kid, you know? And since you're a very young child, you're there. And your mom and your dad are telling you, pay attention, you know? And they're telling you, kiss the ground, you know? You have to kiss the earth. And then they're telling you, it's so important that you kiss the earth. Remember who's actually your real creator, right? Like, there's no like specific God or something in the Maya tradition. They don't even believe in that, you know? But they're like, you could not exist. Remember, you could not exist without the earth. Now we're going to spend 20 minutes saying thank you to the air, because you should be grateful. You have to be grateful, because what would happen, huh? What would happen if there was no air, right? Like, what would happen if there was no fire, if the magma of the earth, if the fire of the sun would not exist? So shouldn't you be grateful? You know, shouldn't you be grateful to that? So now you say thank you. Say thank you to the magma. Say thank you to the fire. Say thank you to the sun, because you couldn't be alive without it. Say thank you to the water, because what would happen, all right? What would happen if there was no water? We would all die. Everything would die on the earth if there was no water. So what would you do without water? And since you're a kid, you're sitting there and your parents are telling you, you have to say thank you to the water. Spend 20 minutes saying thank you to the water right now, because you could not exist without, be grateful for the water, you know? And then basically, mm, you know, then it's like it gets really specific. It's like, say thank you to the ability to have forgiveness in your life. Then say thank you to like to the dogs and to the bees, and say thank you to like every person who came. And then arrives Keme, and everyone goes in a circle, and we thank the ancestors of every single person who's participating in the ceremony one by one, and they have the cebo candles, and they go, like in my case, you know, like I would be like, the architect tells me, tell me your ancestors. I'm like, okay, Carlos Barrios. And then he's like, okay, thank you. Thank you for the life you gave your daughter, Carlos Barrios. And then he drops a candle and his name on the like, you know, on the fire. Then tell me another one. It's like Gerardo Barrios. And then he's like, okay, Gerardo, thank you, Gerardo, for, and then they go one by one. Tell me the name of your grandma, of your grandpa, of your great grandma, of your great grandpa, of your great great grandma, your great grandpa, that cousin, that uncle, that aunt, that, sibling, that person who passed away. You thank every single one of them for their life and for this existence. It's beautiful, really. It's so profound. And the thing is, you know, we forget the importance of gratitude, but what the Mayans believe in is that we have to be grateful. And that's why, do you remember the story of the people of wood? Their biggest issue was that they were not grateful, and because of it, they destroyed the earth. So when you ask yourself, why would a ceremony help the earth? Is not that it directly helps the earth, is that it helps us to feel a profound amount of gratitude and respect towards the earth. Because if you sit there for 5 hours straight, at a minimum of every 20 days at least, but honestly, people do this way more often than just talk. People do this like once a week or more. Some people do it every day. Like an Akik has to do this every single day. When you do this, I swear, I don't know how to explain it, but you feel differently towards life afterwards. You're like so grateful, because if you have to spend 1 hour saying thank you to the trees, when you look at a tree, you're going to feel more grateful for that tree than if you never think about the trees, If you have to spend 1 hour saying thank you to the water, then you're going to feel respect for the water. You're going to have it so present in your mind all the time that the water is sacred, that you have to respect it. And when you're in this state of mind that Kotsi puts you in this state of mind, and you do it often enough that you're permanently kind of like in that state of mind, which is why you cannot let more than 20 days ever pass without doing this. When you're in that state of mind, you're gonna think twice. You're gonna think twice before you pollute the water. You're gonna think twice before you cut down a tree. That's what Calixta was telling me. Like, for example, she and her family, she's an Akik, and she and her family, they grew up doing this practice, obviously. And so she remembers that sometimes her dad had to cut down trees for the firewood for their kitchen and stuff. And sometimes she would come with him to the forest to cut down the tree. And because they do this practice so much, for them, it's so present in the mind. Like, we just spent years saying thank you to the trees, and now we're going to cut down a tree. So her dad, she said, would kneel in front of the tree. He would light a candle. He would pass some incense. He would speak to the tree. He would profoundly like apologize to the tree before cutting it, and explain to the tree that it's not for fun, but that he needs to feed his family, and that this tree is going to help him feed his family by bringing like the wood for the fire that they're going to use in the kitchen for the cooking and whatnot. And and then they would hug the tree, they would talk to the tree, and only then they would cut down the tree, and then they would take it home. And she says he would feel like remorseful about it and everything. But why? Because again, if you do this kind of practice all the time, how could you not feel remorseful about cutting down a tree if you're spending hours every week saying thank you specifically to the trees, you know what I mean? And remembering why they're important, remembering why they're like one of the big bases of our existence, that without them we could not exist. Of course, you're going to feel deep gratitude for them and also deep respect for them, And then if you have to cut one down, you're going to think twice before you do it. You're not going to do it without thinking. You're only going to do it if it's absolutely necessary. And now think of that in contrast to the deforestation that we have nowadays, where it's like, oh, we need to build a monoculture here. Let's cut down this entire forest, this entire jungle, because we need to plant avocados or whatever, And so avocados are the worst, by the way, guys. They are like horrible monocultures. They need way too much space and way too much water, But anyways, or we need to plant palm oil here. So kill all the monkeys and all of the animals and cut down all of the trees and destroy an entire biodiverse area of the world, and bring machines and just cut down the trees, all of them at the same time. So what a difference, it really makes, that somebody super average, like Alix does that, nothing special, just a normal guy, you know what I mean? Because he grew up doing this practice, he feels like, oh my God, I have to respect the trees, versus somebody in the Western world who's like, just, yeah, cut down 10,000 trees. It's fine. It's all good, like without even thinking about it. It's so sad, how this modern day world has become like, such a, yeah, we're just becoming like the people of wood, honestly. Sometimes when I read these stories, I'm like, are we, I'm like, we're acting way more like the people of wood than we're acting like the people of corn, unfortunately, in this modern day world. And this is like a big, large conversation that is being had like in the Mayan communities. People are really worried about like how people in the Western world behave, in the Mayan communities. People are like, what can we do to stop them? Because this is like out of control. Like we're all gonna die, And indigenous n nations are such a small percentage of the population, but they protect 80% of the biodiversity on the planet. They protect and they maintain. And there's been so many studies about biodiversity in areas where Western people live versus areas where indigenous people live, and the biodiversity in the areas where indigenous people live is super healthy, super well preserved because their entire life is just like devoted to, And so that's what you get taught. You get taught that like there's a symbiosis in existence since you're a kid, right? Like, I mean, Calixta told me in her community, this is so beautiful. Like the midwives, when the baby arrives, when the moment the baby's born, the midwife takes the baby for a moment and explains the baby, like, okay, welcome to the earth. Are your duties to protect the earth, like you're important, but nature is also important and animals. And you would think, well, the baby's, like it's not going to understand that, but it's part of the paradigm of this tradition and this culture that this is so important, that you go so deep into it, and if everybody's on that super intense mindset about like the earth and how sacred and important it is, of course you're going to learn it, and you're going to learn it since you're a kid. And so we see it where people in the Maya tradition ask themselves like, of course, my life is valuable, but is my life really more valuable than the life of a lake, than the life of a rainforest? If a rainforest holds the house of all these animals, is my life really more important than the life of the jaguar, really? And they often come to the conclusion that it's not, because they say, well, I'm going to be here for like 80, 90 years if I'm lucky. But the river, the lake, the rainforest is going to be here for hundreds, for thousands of years, and is going to give life to so many beings. And we see that in the Kikchi Nation. Like they're the biggest warriors for nature, really, because that's the area of Guatemala where horrible, horrible, horrible minery. Minery is the devil, really. And like Guatemala is such a rich country, which is why we're so poor, It's so sad, but we have so much richness. I told you the whole story of agriculture the other day, and those horrible dictators and the genocide and the slavery and everything, all because of Chiquita Banana, that company that I'm sure you have a bunch of their stuff in your fridge right now, because unfortunately they're still like the biggest source of like fruits and vegetables, especially if you're in the States. And so if you can try to not buy things from Chiquita Banana, that would be awesome. But anyways, but in addition to just agriculture being one of the biggest things that Guatemala is exploited for, another big one is mining. We have so many minerals in this land. We have gold. We have what do you call that? Cobalt, I think. We have nickel. We have all kinds of things. And I can't remember which is the one that you need for like your phone, and like the electric cars and whatever. I forget, but we have a lot of that, unfortunately. And yeah, we just have like so much gold, that's like valuable. And so they have all these mining companies. Oh, watch this. It's on YouTube. It's for free, Spanish and English, because it has subtitles. Wait, I'm gonna drop the link. That's like how much I want you to watch this. Give me a second. El oro o la vida. Vamos a ver. Yes, here it is. Oops. Pause. Link. Send. Okay. So this is a documentary. It's very old. I think it's from like the early 2000s, but more relevant today than ever because the situation only got worse since this documentary was shot. It's called El Oro o la Vida, which means gold or life. And you'll see if you just watch it, then you'll understand why minery is the devil. You know, like the exploitation of
No
the
estamos
earth. They
absolutamente de
destroy the
acuerdo,
planet. They destroy people's health.
absolutamente,
They
ni
throw
con
all
el
this
CACIF,
chemical waste
ni con
into
las
the
políticas
rivers, and then everybody
neoliberales,
in those
porque
communities gets like
para
cancer
nosotros
and
este
stuff.
principio es
Not to
un
mention they
principio
go and destroy
fundamental en la doctrina
entire
social de la
forests
Iglesia,
and jungles
el
in
valor
order
de la
to do
persona, la
mining. They
primacía de la
exploit
persona
the
sobre
populations that
el
live there.
dinero,
It's
la
horrible.
primacía
Don't buy
de
gold,
la
please. Don't buy
persona sobre el
silver.
lucro y la
Don't buy
ganancia.
metals that
En el
require
caso de la
mining.
mina, peor, porque la
But
mina
basically,
va a tener una
anyways,
duración de tantos años,
the
va a
Kekchi people
destruir
are
el
proof
medio
of the
ambiente,
concept
se
that I
están
am
gastando
saying,
miles de
because every time the mining companies come there, you can Google what happened in 2020 in El Estor Zabal. Mining companies come there and they're like, oh, you have gold under your community. So sorry, but we have to kick you out of your community. And people refuse. They're like, you're going to have to kill us if you want to take us out of here, because we're not going to let you destroy our sacred altars. We're not going to let you destroy nature or like our rivers, our lakes. And they mean it. They're like, you will kill us because we're not going to come out of here alive. You know, like if you want our land, you're going to have to kill us for it. And that's what the mining companies do. They actually kill people. It's so horrible, you know? So in El Estor, they sent like so many police trucks in 2020, and with those like machines that you know are like for construction and whatever, and they made the machines drive into people's houses, and they sent the police with torches and fire to burn people's houses. People were like running away because, oh, okay, I'm getting really angry as I'm speaking right now, but they were like running away, and people still refused to leave. They were like, we're still standing here even without our houses, you know. And then any journalist who dare to report on it always ends up in jail for like false pretenses, or they end up dead in a car accident like super randomly as soon as they start reporting minery, or they commit suicide. All of the journalists coincidentally die when they start reporting on like the issues of minery in Guatemala. So it rarely makes it to the news. That's why El Estor was so scandalous, because it actually made it to the news. And I think people were shocked in the country because they finally got to see like what minery is really doing. And it was crazy. Like everybody was really angry, like because the videos were very shocking to watch and everything, you know. And yeah, all they have to do is bribe the government, you know, and the government's like, yes, do come and do whatever you want. If you give us a few millions, yeah, come destroy the people and the planet and everything. So, but the point was not to get angry talking about minery. The point was to give you an example of, for the Mayans, like how far they're willing to go to protect the earth. That's why, like, joining the fight for indigenous rights is not just joining the fight for indigenous rights, which should be enough already to join the fight, but it's also joining the fight for the planet, you know. It's also joining the fight for yourself, because like it is indigenous nations who are like the only ones, honestly, who are actually truly fighting against climate change, against like all of the bad things that are happening right now. Like I can say I've seen both sides, and I think really indigenous people are the only ones who are truly doing the job for real, you know, not just saying they're doing the job, but actually doing the job. And they're going as far as being willing to give up their lives in order to protect the earth. That's like how worried people are in the Maya nations and all indigenous nations about like the destruction that's happening with the planet. So if they can do that, maybe we can also try our best, right? At least a little bit, because it does matter. And that's why, you know, Mehelem Shukulem is so much more important than we realize. People in indigenous nations would not have this mindset if it wasn't because they do kotzich all the time, and because they sit in front of the fire all the time, and they spend 5, 10 hours every week, just saying thank you. So today is a great day to light a candle at least, and to, to say thank you. Thank you to the earth, and to remember, like, yes, right, like I wouldn't exist without the earth. I would not exist without the water. So thank you for that water. Thank you for that fire. Thank you for that air. Thank you for that outer space. Thank you for that solar system. Thank you for that trees. Thank you for that plants. Thank you for that animals. That's what, Toch is about. That's what we refer to as payment. It's like the sacrifice we're willing to make, like the tax we're willing to pay in exchange for something really good to come back to all of us, which is that the earth is in harmony and that we are okay and that we live in harmony with the earth, because everybody does their part. Everybody does this in the Maya communities. And as I said, they spend money that they don't have to say thank you. And they travel so far to say thank you. They climb mountains and volcanoes to say thank you. You get so dirty just to say thank you. And of course, you can light a candle at home, and it's beautiful. You should do it. But if you light a candle, you say thank you, and then you leave, and that's it. Like, okay, you still did something, and that's amazing. But believe me when I tell you that thank you will never compare to the thank you that you will feel when you've traveled 5 hours, when you've like gotten super dirty, when you're suffering from the heat or from the cold or from the rain, because if it rains, you have to stay. Like, you can't leave. It doesn't matter. You can't leave until the fire is out. And and when you're hours and hours and hours and hours into this, at some point in time, the thank you is going to really hit you, like you're going to be like, yeah, right. Thank you. Like you're going to be like, right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. But for real, thank you. Like, I get it. I just, you know, processed how important life is, how important the earth is, how important the water is. And you're going to actually not just say it, but experience it, like truly, deeply, profoundly, this gratitude. And so living in a state of gratitude is the key to preserving the planet, to living in harmony with the earth, to being better as communities, but also to living a better life with yourself. Because if you're grateful, if you're experiencing gratitude constantly, that's not unhealthy for you. That's actually really good. Like, that's good for your mental health, it's good for your physical health, it's good for your emotional health, it's good for your relationships, it's good for your life. So the Mayans do this every single day, okay? Like, every 20 days at least, they do like a really big one, like a big ceremony. But at least every day in the morning, the tradition in the Mayan world is in the morning, you get up with the first rays of sunlight and you go and you light a candle in the morning and you say thank you for that I woke up, and you spend at least 20-30 minutes in the morning. And then you do the same thing every single night before you go to sleep. You light another candle, you sit with it until the candle burns out, which can take 10, 20, 30 minutes. And then you just say thank you, for another 10, 20, 30 minutes, and the Mayans believe that fire is sacred because, well, in addition to literally providing us life, like the magma, like the sunlight, fire also has this ability to put us like in a certain mental state. Like, looking at fire puts us in this mental state where it's easier to like have a conversation with ourselves, a conversation with existence, and to experience that gratitude. And that's why candles or fire ceremonies or those kinds of things are such a big part of the Maya tradition. Not that you need the candle, not that you need the fire ceremony, but it just puts you in like a mental state to do that act. It like kind of like marks the moment in which you're doing this act of feeling grateful, and that helps you experience like that gratitude more profoundly than if you're just like sitting on the chair and you're like, oh yeah, thank you, by the way. Like, it's more profound, right? It forces you to sit there, it forces you to actually feel this feeling. So light a candle if you have one today. And on that note, I'll talk to Toch people just for a minute. If you're Toch, please, 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 please protect your energy. What do I mean by that? Those people are the ones who have to pay. And now you understood what payment means. It's nothing bad. It's not like you have to pay. No, it's like you have to pay. It's a big, important part of those people's life to do their payment, which is everything I just literally described right now. At the latest, every 20 days, those people, you really should light that candle. What's the problem here? if Dutch people don't do that, it's like if they don't pay, they pay. But then they don't pay in a nice way, like they pay for not paying. Not like a punishment or something for not paying, but it's such an essential part of them. They suffer more if they're not in that state of gratitude. For them, that's more important than for the rest of us. And for all of us, is really important, but for them, that's more important. So those people, we say they're the ones who always get answers to their prayers. Like they have this ability to really like bring things into reality, into existence, whether they are aware of it or not. They're really great at working with the fire. The fire is really healing for them. What's their only problem is that they have this thing. It's not like something that's out loud spoken about. It's something that everybody else can perceive in them energetically. And they just are really good at transmuting problems or something. So for that reason, at a very subconscious level, people can feel that about them, and everybody tells Toch their deepest, darkest secrets. Like, even if you were not planning to do it, if you're Toch, you're everybody's therapist, like your friends, your family, everybody just comes to you with like all of their problems. And, you know, and it's the weirdest thing. And it happened to me. Like I always knew that, but it happened to me once. I was talking to a girl. I barely knew her. I'm not like the kind of person who's always sharing my problems with everyone. And we were in the middle of the conversation. We were like 10 minutes in, and all of a sudden I start telling her like all my life problems, all my deepest traumas. I'm like, yeah, And then like 20 minutes in, I'm like, why am I telling you this? I was like, this is so weird. I don't even know you. Like, why am I telling you all my secrets and stuff? And then I'm like, wait a second. I was like, might sound weird, but can I have your date of birth? And she's like, yes. And she gives me her date of birth. And so I put it in the calculator really quickly. And lo and behold, of course, she was Toch. And I was like, of course. I was like, that's what I was telling you all my problems. You're Toch. I don't even know you. Like only that could explain it, And so Toch just has this thing where energetically they're almost like an open door that invites that. And it's not that they have to close themselves up or something, but they have to protect themselves better, because it's like in the same example of the house that I was telling you about, like keeping your house clean. People come into Toch's house with all of their trash and they're like dropping it in their house. They're like, yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm bringing you all of my trash. You can keep it for me now. So the thing that happens to Toch is people talk to them about their problems, and the person talking to Toch is feeling so much better. I don't know what it is. Dog doesn't even have to say anything. You just talk to them and you just feel better just by talking to them. They have this like healing power inside of them. But dog is not feeling better at all. Dog is feeling worse and worse and worse and worse because they're keeping people's trash. And so basically what they have to do is, and you know what's so funny? So many of them, I'm like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, please don't say psychologist, don't say doctor, please, please, please. And they're always like, oh, I'm a psychologist, I'm a doctor. I'm like, I'm always like, of course, because they just always have, this innate thing inside of them that they're really good at helping. And so this is part of their talent. They want to help, they want to help people because they're really good at it, which is fine. They should do that. They should be a psychologist. They should be a doctor. That's actually the perfect career path for them. But what's the problem is if they don't know that they're Toch and they don't learn how to protect their own energy, they're just taking in all of this. And if they don't like, it's like you know how to take the stuff out of people. And then once you take it out, you should throw it away. But they take it out and they put it in them, and that's the problem here. So they have to learn how to take it out, but then throw it away. So Toch has to protect themselves energetically. So any kind of like I'm not wearing it right now, but you remember like the other day I was wearing an obsidian necklace. Obsidian is great to protect your energy. I have nothing on me right now, but red jewelry is really great to protect your energy as well. Maybe like a red faja above your belly button or something. Like you can wear it under your clothes. You don't have to look weird in public or something, but you can wear it under your clothes. Um, or little things that can help you protect your energy. So they need protection, but the other thing that Toch people need is they need cleansing. So they need to cleanse themselves once in a while, especially if they feel like heavy, if they feel like they've absorbed a lot of other people's energy, they should like pass some roux on their body, or, bathe themselves with water and salt, because Salt is the best at cleansing, really. Water and salt. It's so simple. You just put water and salt together, you pass it on your body, and salt just like sucks in all of the bad vibes. It's not something you can do very often. Like you can do this every day or something, but it's in case of emergency, like if you feel like very overwhelmed or something, this one will really certainly do the trick. I don't know. You guys probably know past instance. I don't know. You guys probably know 100 different cleansing practices. So just pick your favorite ones, the ones that work for you. And that's really important for Toch to protect their energy and to cleanse themselves because otherwise, you know, they just accumulate. We always say Toch people suffer because of other people's energy more than their own stuff. They just carry they're also, it's crazy. They're so empathetic. It's like they could sit next to a person who has a back pain and Toch will get a back pain just by sitting next to that person. Like they can really feel what other people are feeling, which is great. It's a gift, but you know how we've been talking about weaknesses and strengths, it can be your biggest strength, but it can also be your biggest weakness if you don't know how to properly work with it. So that's my recommendation for Toch. At least every 20 days, do your payment, light the little candle to do your payment. Try to find techniques to protect your own energy if you can. And once in a while, cleanse yourself a little bit and learn how to manage other people's energy. And then you can be great at helping them, but be careful that that does not affect you too much. So learn how to actually, be able to do that, and okay, this is like, I'm just gonna say, because I just read something somebody wrote in the chat. It has nothing to do with Toch, but if you are Noch, I'm just gonna share like a fun detail about your Mayan chart. If you're Noch, you have Toch in your chart, but you have it in your conception. And Toch in that specific position for Noch people means that sometimes you're paying for like the karma of your family and your ancestors. So you're the one who has to cut away like all the stuff that your ancestors did and whatnot. So doing ancestral work for you is good if you're Noch. Because that Mayan chart, it depends, the meaning of the energy depends on where the energy is. But something I can tell you that's really simple is if one of the energies we're talking about is in your Mayan chart, so even if you're not Toch, but you have Toch in your chart, Toch will affect you and you'll probably identify to some of the things I speak about when I say Toch, and you can just have everything I'm saying apply to you if you have Toch in your chart, for example, and same for all the other energies on the other days. They affect you. It's deeper than that. It has like a more profound meaning, but just very basic level information. Yes, it all affects you, like all of the energies that sit on your Mayan chart. Um, so, okay. So why are we drinking cacao with mushrooms today? I think you already know the answer to that question. Mushrooms are the Nawal of Toch, so it makes perfect sense. And by the way, just clarification, no magic mushrooms. Every single challenge somebody asks me, is it magic mushrooms? I'm always like, no, please don't be putting magic mushrooms in your cacao. In the Maya tradition, we don't mix medicines. So mushrooms are a medicine too, like magic mushrooms. I mean, they're a medicine too. And cacao is a medicine, but in the Mayan world, we don't like, usually you wouldn't mix two medicines like that with each other. Like it's one or the other, but not the two together. And that's considered like dangerous or disrespectful even to mix two medicines and to play with medicines like that. You know what I mean? So you can mix your cacao with anything. Like you can mix it with spices, you can mix it with, you know, grains, as we learn, like amaranth, corn. You can mix it with, I don't know, with certain herbs, like chamomile, lavender, mint, whatever you want. Like there's nothing against making little recipes with your cacao. Feel free to experiment, but don't mix your cacao with drugs, basically. Don't mix your cacao with drugs. And in essence, that's like the whole point, In that sense, cacao is so strong, it even has some contraindications. Certain kinds of medications have a contraindication with cacao. For example, certain kinds of antidepressants, antipsychotics, some kinds of epilepsy medicine, because cacao does cross your blood-brain barrier. And it does regulate certain neurotransmitters in the brain. And if you're taking antidepressants that are doing the same job and the same neurotransmitters, they can fight with each other and then you can feel a little crazy. So just be careful, make sure you know the contraindications and ask your doctor. I don't know. So if your doctor knows what ceremonial cacao is, I don't know. You can ask a herbalist. If your doctor doesn't know what you're talking about and he thinks you're crazy, you can always ask a herbalist. Herbalists usually know. So anyways, that's a trained professional is the point. Um, so basically, um, today's cacao, not with magic mushrooms, but with any kind of mushroom that is edible. Mushrooms are very sacred in the Maya tradition. They're seasonal. So there's times of the year where people go mushroom picking in the woods and eat, like, all kinds of mushrooms are incorporated into the diet. They represent part of the cycle of death and rebirth because everything that dies turns into a mushroom. The earth in a way is like one big mushroom. Like, so nothing is more important. I mean, everything is important as we just established today. But one of the things that's really important is the mycelial networks under the ground. Another great reason to not eat things that are not organic, because those chemicals, those fungicides, those pesticides kill the mycelium. Do you know how severely horrible that is for an ecosystem? To murder the mycelium is like not good. There's this amazing documentary on Netflix. It's called Fantastic Fungi, and I recommend you watch it. It's great. You can understand why mushrooms are important if you watch that one. So I recommend it. Okay, so today, to end the meeting, I have actually a pretty exciting announcement to make. Something has been on the works, guys, for a while, and I've kept it a secret, which I'm really bad at keeping secrets. Every challenge, I always accidentally announce things that I'm not supposed to. And then the team is like, Sulvai, we could not tell that to people yet. My team is always murdering me for like revealing all these deep secrets in the challenge when I get overly excited, but I kept this one. So congratulating myself for that, because I almost told you like 5 times already. I had to stop myself because I'm excited about it. So, but basically, we have an announcement to make, and the rest of the world will learn about it in 1 week from now. But you guys are in the challenge, and we wanted to let you know like beforehand, because we always try to give like some extra like special treatment to the people who are in the challenge. So sometimes like throughout the challenge, we'll like give everybody like discounts on some of our products or do little things like that because we love everybody who always comes to the challenge. So your special treatment this time is you're gonna get to learn about something before everybody else gets to learn about it. It's kind of a partial secret then. So basically, I don't know if you guys ever heard about the Mind Wisdom Journey. I know that some of you are in it right now. So if you're in it, then of course you heard about the Mind Wisdom Journey, obviously. But I don't know if you, like the rest of you who are not in it, ever heard about it. And so maybe you noticed that we kind of did not open the doors to it again, because it was like seasonal in the sense that we only open the doors to the journey like, I don't know how often, like 3 times a year, 4 times a year, something like that. I can't really remember exactly how often. So what we did with the Mind Wisdom Journey is a 1-year program. I'll just tell you briefly the story. Give me 5 extra minutes, sorry. I'll just tell you briefly the story of how we created it. So, my dad and I, the reason we started the Mind Wisdom Project, the idea came from not a great place, actually. The idea came from, there's this like really, I'm gonna be clear, it's terrible. There's this really terrible thing that's happening in Guatemala right now, where, like, no offense to anyone, right? But but a little bit of offense, yes, because actually it's kind of unethical. Anyways, so people are coming here, and it's kind of good and bad when something becomes trendy. And indigenous wisdom is becoming trendy right now. You probably have noticed that, especially if you're here. So, but with trendiness comes, it could come a really great opportunity to have like the real true wisdom speakers, like holders, be able to share messages with the world, which is something that they've been waiting for a platform for that, especially I told you with how worried they've been about like climate change and everything that's happening in the world. with trendiness could come a really good opportunity, but oftentimes what happens is, we have places in Guatemala where people come and they like do all kinds of things that in the Maya tradition are very frowned upon. Like I was walking on the street years ago at the lake and I saw this sign. It was like Mayan chart reading course, 2 weeks or something like that. $500 or whatever. And I was like, what? No, I was like, you can't do that. Only an Akki can do Mayan chart readings. You can't teach that to people. That's against the rules. And then we learned with my dad that there were people who were walking people to be a Mayan spiritual leader, like a 2-month course on how to be a spiritual leader of the Maya tradition. And I was like, no, you can't do that. Even the Mayans themselves, like not everybody can be a spiritual leader. A lot of people get rejected. It's a long process. When you find your teacher, my dad always joked with his students. He was like, "Oh, there, you guys, I'm committing to you more than to my wife because it's a commitment for life, but also for death." He's like, "You're gonna keep on calling me even after I die." And in the Maya tradition, there's students of like the Arquij students, the midwife students, the herbalist students, all of those people, like the teachers become responsible for you for life. And if an Arquij does something wrong, unethical or whatever, not only does the Arquij get punished, the teacher gets punished because like, what did you teach him that he's doing this unethical thing? So uh, one teacher holds like one, two, maybe three students max in their lifetime, and it's like a forever relationship. So like, then there's people walking people to Vienna in 2 months, like hundreds of people. And now I've talked to so many people, like a million people who are like, I'm an Akik. I'm like, are you really an Akik? What did you learn for 2 months? That's not good. It's so unethical. And so it bothered me a lot to know so many teachers because of my dad, obviously. I know so many midwives. I know so many herbalists. I know so many aquí, and they work as shuttle drivers, as cleaning ladies. Like they're true healers, but they're living in such extreme poverty. They are forced to go and get like some job to be able to survive and live in extreme poverty. When they're incredible healers. Um, just to then see people who come here only for 2 months, learn like the mega super basics of the Maya tradition, getting really rich off of that. So I'm not gonna lie, that bothered me. It also bothered my dad. And so then we were like, maybe if you can't fight them, join them, but maybe in a really good way, right? Because it's also so dangerous too. And that's why I'm always giving the example of like, you know, a doctor, like you would not get a surgery with a doctor who studied for 1 week, right? That took a course on how to do surgery for 1 week. I would never let a doctor like that do surgery. That's not even a doctor. That's somebody who claims to be a doctor, but is not a doctor. So it's dangerous in two sides. It's dangerous for the Maya tradition because it's like exploitative and it's disrespectful, but it is even dangerous for people who come trusting that they're going to be in good hands with their health, their mental health, their physical health, and they get treated by somebody who might just move around some emotions without knowing how to do it, and or give you medicine without knowing how to do it, and that's dangerous. And we've heard in Guatemala of so many cases of people who've gone through traumatic experiences because people are just giving super strong medicines like irresponsibly, you know what I mean? And so anyways, that's why I was like, okay, that maybe we can kill like 10 birds with one stone. So basically like we can give a space for people to be safe. We can also at the same time like support like the actual teachers that we know, like give like allow them to make a true living out of the things that they do so they don't have to be shuttle drivers or cleaning ladies anymore. And like also provide a space where we can share authentic Mayan wisdom in a way that is shared, where we have the permission and we only share what we have the permission to share, etc. So we started like that. And then, oh my God, it's been 5 minutes. Give me another 5 minutes. Sorry, now I got excited telling this story. But so basically we started and we kind of just figured it out as we went. And at some point, if you've been with us for long enough, then you'll remember we used to have like 20 different courses and offerings. It's like one about herbalism, one about this, one about that. And it got so confusing. People were like, I don't even know where to start. You guys like offer so many different things. So then we worked for years, we broke our heads on like, how can we deliver something that is really powerful, profound, and healing in the most positive way, but without the messiness of delivering it in 20 different parts and having people figure out how to do it. So we just took the wisdom of all the teachers of decades of research and work of my dad, because, you know, he was like, and we put it together into what is the Mayan wisdom journey. And the journey has now been running for 1 year, and it was really expensive. It was almost $2,000. And the reason for that is we made a deal with the teachers to really honor their wisdom, so we could pay them like crazy well for those video courses and all of that work, and for consulting and helping us build the journey. And we made it very interactive. So we have like moderators in there, and like private calls with the groups. Everybody's in a cohort. So they go through the whole 12 months together and receive a lot of like attention from the moderators. And like there's group calls, there's like Zoom calls, there's like all kinds of things. Stephanie keeps an eye on all of you, as you guys probably know if you're in the journey. She knows you so well. You would not believe it. She always is like telling me everything about everyone. So it's very personalized, you know, not your secrets, don't worry. But she's always like even telling me, I think this person's doing really well. Like this person is at this part of the journey. Like they pay really close attention, Alina and Stephanie. And so it was great because then we could pay the filmmakers really well. We could pay the teachers really well. We could afford to build this program. It took us 1 year to build this program. It was a lot of work. We traveled all around Guatemala, recording people, coming up with the content, etc. But now that we kind of achieved that and we did it, and the content is created, like, well, the price is still reasonable because of it's 1 year, you know, it's like so much content. Everybody who's in the journey knows it. But one of our missions is to make wisdom accessible. So if you're in the journey, don't worry, Stephanie will reach out and explain how you're also going to benefit from this. But for those of you who are not in the journey, we decided to lower the price a lot by changing it and making it self-paced and not having the moderators, because we could not simply not handle that with moderating and with group calls and all of that. But we decided to just make it self-paced and make it more accessible to people. And that's what we're going to announce in 1 week from now. It's still a 1 year program, but you're going to get lifetime access to it. And the cool thing about getting lifetime access to it is that Stephanie, Elena, and I already came up with our crazy plan. We were like, I was like, it's done. We don't have to work on it anymore. But I know myself well enough. I was like, no, okay, let's work on it more. So Stephanie, Alina, and I are going to go through a whole other round. We've made like a 2-year plan right now, Stephanie, Alina, and I, to like improve it like crazy and make it like everybody loves it already. Who's in it? We get like all these good positive comments about it and how transformative it's been. But Alina and I were telling Stephanie, like, you know what? We can make it better. We can make it even better. I know it. So we're going to work on it for like 1-2 more years. And we're going to constantly make live changes to it. And so if you're in it, you're going to get like lifetime access to it. So you're going to get all of its different versions of it, like the current way it is, plus like everything new that we're going to be adding. In addition to that, we broke our heads and we're starting to change the concept of it. It was like the pyramid, but now it's going to be a spiral. We're doing some really exciting changes to it. Anyways, for those of you who don't know, it's a mix of different practices. So it's education via video courses so that you can learn actual information and knowledge, but it's knowledge and wisdom. And you remember the difference between knowledge and wisdom as I described, right? So there's a lot of exercises and practices that you can do for an entire year to cover and heal all of your 4 bodies, like the emotional, the mental, the physical, the spiritual, heal your relationships. There's all kinds of beautiful practices. And the first month, you know how much I love my dad. The first month of it is a video course with my dad that we still got to record with him before he passed away, like as part of content for the Mayan Wisdom Project. So I feel so blessed that we got to do that. And so many of the exercises were written by him and made by him. And so that's also very special to me. It's like honoring his legacy in that way. So it's like a 2-level surprise right now because, you know, the holidays are coming. So we're going to have some extra special offers for the holidays too. So instead of it being almost $2,000. The price has been like largely reduced to $497. But right now, for the holidays, we're also going to give it like an even extra bigger discount, which is $297 instead of 497. That's going to be available for 11 days. So until November 28th, that's going to be available. And right now, you can't find that on the website because this offer is going to go to everyone else in like a week, as I said. But is the point of the challenge where everybody starts sending us email and asking us like, I want to learn more Mayan wisdom, so what can I do next? And I was like, I know what they can do next, but I can't tell them. So we just decided to announce it to you guys like a little bit earlier. And if you're currently part of the journey, as I said, Stephanie will reach out to you. You'll also have access to the new journey, and you'll also have access to all of this new content and a bunch of new stuff like for free, obviously, because you're already part of the journey. So it's going to be exciting. You guys are going to get some perks for being the original journeyers. But but yeah, it's really cool. So I think Martin is like gonna drop the link in the chat somewhere because it's a hidden link. We're also gonna send an email with it because again, you can't find it in the website because it's a hidden offer right now. And it's really exciting because we have really poured our heart and soul into this program like you have no idea. I hope that it comes through for those of you who are in the journey. Is the work of really years, of like just recording, and the content alone took us a year. Planning it took us like an entire year. Like you have no idea what we went through to put this program together. And because of that, I can say it's a really killer program, but I also think we can make it like so much cooler. And Elena and I already came up with some crazy exercises like how to master your mind with Adalberto, and like my dad, the healers all have these practices about like literally things you can do to physically heal. We talked about like breaking your reality and your brain and stuff like that. And that's something we have not included in it yet. And those are the kinds of things like how to heal your womb if you're a woman. Like those are the kinds of things we're going to start adding to it little by little. But the practices that are already right now there are already super awesome, created by my dad. So super awesome. And yeah, I hopefully will see some of you guys in the journey. And yeah, we'll send this in an email too. So, and just so you guys have the link, but I think the link was dropped somewhere here in the chat already. So thank you for listening and have an amazing rest of your day. Have an amazing dog. I'll go to bed. My head hurts. But see you guys tomorrow. Have an awesome day. Go say gratitude. Go say thank you. Go feel gratitude. That's the important part, not just to say it, but to actually feel it. So if you can spend time in nature today, do that. If you can light a candle, do that. If you can connect with the fire, if you can be grateful today, do that. And protect your energy as well if you're dog. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. And cheers. Bye bye. See you guys. Bye.